Not many superstar actors come out of my state, so when one does finally emerge, I decide to give him a little due. No, I'm not talking about Bill Cosby. I am the game collector, and this is Second Opinion Games. And today we're looking at Will Smith video games.
Second Opinion Games.
When talking about Will Smith movies, we have to bring up Independence Day. It got a video game for the PlayStation 1, which was critically panned, but the exact same game also came out in the Sega Saturn, which fans tend to like quite a bit more. Why? It feels like the same game. Maybe the controls are a little bit better here on the Saturn, and that's all it needed, but the gameplay isn't really that fun. First, you have to seek out some shield generators on the mothership itself, blow them up, and then try and take out some aliens before they completely devastate Earth. The graphics here look about on par with what the PlayStation and Sega Saturn can do, so really that's nothing much. Also, you can't control the speed of your airplane, so its maneuverability isn't quite there. If your main ship happens to blow up, well then you could pilot an A-110 Warthog, which is one of my favorite airplanes, and I personally kind of like this game if you can get past the annoying taking out shield generators point of the whole thing. It's one that you should probably give a chance if you happen to have a Saturn. I guess it's maybe not so good on the PS1. Bad Boys was an iconic movie franchise, getting 3 films. The first one is so-so, the second one is just laughably awesome with the action, and the third one's pretty good as well. This is Miami Takedown for the original Xbox. It also came out on the PS2, but I think it looks a little bit cleaner here on the Xbox, and it controls kind of sluggish and weird, but basically you're a big bullet sponge, so it doesn't really matter. You could run around shooting everything in sight, and you can either go for being a perfect cop or a bad boy. As you destroy more property, you'll be encroaching into that bad boy territory. And also, you could either choose to arrest some of the criminals that happen to give up, but chances are they're going to be shooting at you so fast, you're just going to unload your whole clip in them, making it so they're not so much arrested as they are, well, really dead. Also, there's a really cool arcade you can kind of explore early on in the game, and I am just fascinated by arcades in video games. I know it's kind of fourth wall breaking, but I really just love it. This was really good for its time, but now I can't see a lot of people going back to it. But if you're in for a good laugh, well then you might like this. Who can forget about Men in Black? It was one of the biggest blockbusters ever. Men in Black 2, the video game, came to the GameCube, and this one is really hard to find for this system. Now, it might look like it controls similar to other shooters of this aspect, but no, you have a dive button, no jump button, a quick turnaround. Also, you can carry 3 weapons at the same time. All of them are alien weapons, so trying to figure out exactly how they work is a little confusing. After you blow away some of these alien weapons, you can pick up upgrades to your weapon that only last for a very short amount of time. Most of the time, you're just going to be running through the stages as fast as possible, mowing everything down, but without an ability to strafe from side to side, you are going to have a really rough time. So you're going to have to dive and roll. But a lot of times you're just going to be a big damage sponge trying to work through the level before your lives completely run out. This makes the game really not that fun, and for the high price that you're going to spend to pick it up, I really can't recommend this one. Maybe look for the sequel on the Wii, that might be a little bit better. Will also did his fair share of voice acting, and he was in A Shark's Tale. So I'm looking at the original Xbox version here, and I gotta say the graphics look insanely good. Now, normally water levels are the absolute worst in video games, and this is a 2.5D, just collect-a-thon, do everything that your neighbors ask, and try and score some money, because your fish is sort of a lowlife. He doesn't pay his rent at all, which means sometimes you're landlord might throw your crap out the window, and then you notice it's a collection of smaller mini games. Even when the game first starts off, it starts off with a bang as this massive shark is chasing you down. This is incredibly cool, and it gets really frantic and really quite intense. I just wish there was more of this throughout the experience, because even though this game was probably meant for kids, it will definitely hold your attention as an adult. Muhammad Ali actually asked Will Smith to portray him in his movie, so I think Muhammad Ali heavyweight boxing for the Sega Genesis definitely should be considered a Will Smith movie. Because, you know, Cassius Clay himself thinks that Will is just standing for him. That's good enough for me. So in this game, you basically just tap the punch button and beat the crap out of everyone that stands before you, especially if you decide to play as Ali himself. And why wouldn't you? He's one of the best fighters of all time. Now you can switch to a more strategic way to set up the controls, so it's maybe a little bit more thought put into it, but when I do that, I just go down like a chump every single time. I can't figure out how to actually box in this, and you know what? They didn't put a whole lot of effort into the game with the character models, pretty much just changing the tint of the people. Sometimes the ring does change and move with your characters, and their sound effects are quite good. In between rounds, you can see how many punches actually landed, and you can see how beat up your character is, as well as some sweet ring babes that walk through the ring. Boy, this is where the majority of the graphical power actually went into this game, with these sweet faceless babes. And if you happen to win a match, well, they'll even give you a little bit of a kiss. But there is a game for the Genesis that you absolutely must play involving Will Smith. And that's Disney's Aladdin. Now, Will played the genie in the live-action version, and of course, this is based on the much earlier version with Robin Williams as the genie. As far as genies go, Will Smith isn't a very good one. He's not even in my top 3. That, of course, being Robin Williams, and then I Dream of Genie, followed by the best genie of all, Shantae. And if you want to get a 4th place winner, Will doesn't even take that. Instead, it's Shaquille O'Neal. So that just shows you how bad of a genie he actually was. However, in this game, well, Will's not really in it. The genie isn't here too much at all, but what you do get is a great Aladdin video game. Now, a lot of people were in 2 camps at this time, the Super Nintendo versus the Sega Genesis, and even though I was strongly in the Super Nintendo camp, I have to recognize this as the superior game. You could use your sword and hack people to shreds and even do some sword fighting, and you use your full acrobat skills to make it through all the various levels, lighting effects, frames of animation. This is one gorgeous game from start to finish, and I even like the sound maybe a little bit more. It has that Sega Genesis twang to it. And yeah, I know that's pretty subjective. The Super Nintendo also sound great, but this is one of the best video games of all times. But is it the best Will Smith video game? Well, for that glorious honor, I have to give it to my last game, iRobot. Now, granted, I never seen the iRobot movie, but I had played this video game back in the early 80s, and I gotta tell you what, in 1983, this was the most gorgeous arcade game at the time, where you play as a robot that can jump back and forth from the different platforms. Now, the whole idea here is that you have to collect all of the red. You also can't be jumping in the air while the eyeball is red itself. If it does, it will zap you dead instantaneously. Also, you have to watch out for birds that fly overhead. You can shoot them as you jump back and forth. And as you move through the game with a single quarter, by the way, because you're going for a high score here, you try to clear as many levels as possible, and you'll be treated with some flying stages here too as you dodge back and forth. Early polygons of this time just look amazing, by the way. If you happen to make it far enough into the game, well, then you'll be running through and blowing up this giant eyeball again, and then you will fight a giant boss battle. If you thought that boss battle looked good in Star Fox, you haven't seen nothing yet. You could also pay $0.25 for the right to just piss around with some of the characters here in the game for about 3 minutes. I don't know why this was a thing, other than the fact that the game looked that gorgeous. And I also don't know how they could have possibly made a Will Smith movie out of this video game, but apparently they did, and because of which, this makes it the very best Will video game ever, other than Aladdin. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it, and it turns out Will Smith got himself into a little bit of trouble, which is why people wanted me to make this video for some reason. Or at least one guy did, and I thought it sounded like a good idea. So if you have a ridiculous idea for a video about video games that you think I should take on, please leave me a comment, because unlike some of those bigger YouTubers, I actually listen to the people. So until later, I will see you again, guys.
How the hell a freak like you get his own gas?